out in our province, particularly incidents of Islamophobia, of anti-Semitism, of anti-Palestinian racism. It's up 130%. People really need to be coming together at this time. It's a very difficult time for a lot of people, and I think we here in the legislature need to set an example. I also want to mention that yesterday was the deadliest day so far in the attacks on Gaza. 700 people were killed, and half of those were children. We're calling again from the NDP, both federally and provincially, on the government to call for a ceasefire.
Can you grab the mic?
A ceasefire, an end to the siege, urgent humanitarian aid, and the release of hostages. It's very important that we get to that place because lives are being lost in the region, and I know so many people here in Ontario are impacted. We've seen families torn apart. Now is the time to be calling absolutely, and as I have been doing every single day since this started, for a ceasefire, for the end to the siege, humanitarian aid getting to people urgently, and the release of hostages. Thank you, and I'm happy to take questions.
What do you think local law enforcement should be doing about some of these incidents that we're seeing, vandalism that's been causing and others?
Well, look, I mean, you know, it's really important that we take these things seriously, right? It has a huge impact on people. I think, I know there's a lot of hurt and anger out there, and again, I want to speak to the fact that there's a lot of division and behavior of, like, this government, for example, like the last few weeks, has not helped that. It's fueling and inflaming tension and division. I'm not blaming them for those incidents by any means, but I think now is the time for us as leaders to come across a calm approach to these issues, a considered and thoughtful approach, and to really speak out against these acts because we cannot tolerate it for a moment, and we need to make sure that families, people in this province feel safe.
Mara, what do you make of the fact that a RCMP investigator in the Greenbelt case has referred to there being the special prosecutor involved in that matter?
Well, I think it's pretty telling that, you know, it indicates there's definitely more conflicts of interest here. It's pretty telling that the RCMP has to bring in the special prosecutor for this criminal investigation of the Ford government. And, you know, just another example of, you know, what this government's dirty dealings are leading to. This, as I was pointing out in my questions today, this has repercussions for lots of different areas. We know it's, you know, we have all kinds of shady dealings around MZOs, certainly around the Greenbelt grab. I raised some questions today about the premiers and ministers, perhaps promises made to Mr. McVitie about that private university. This government's, you know, got a lot of dirty dealings, and bringing in a special prosecutor tells you all you need to know about how big this investigation is, and it is, I think, possibly the first in many generations that we've seen like this.
The tragedy that he's saying that it's reconsidering their rejection of the renters.
Oh, absolutely. I don't know how they can live with that. You know, we have seen tragedy after tragedy. It's not going to end. We need to address it in a systemic way. I was really shocked and appalled by how they, you know, sort of shirked those recommendations off, shrugged them off. This is the time to take action. We cannot, lives will continue to be lost, and we need to take a really system-wide approach to combating intimate partner violence.
On the McVitie situation, it seems to be comparing to the other scandals under this government. Can you just explain that?
Yeah, I think we see a pattern in this government of preferential treatment for their friends and insiders. We know that Mr. McVitie was a personal friend of the premier's. We knew there was something wrong with that deal. The government eventually, only when they get caught out do they ever do anything right. Do they ever reverse course? We saw that with the MZOs. We saw that with the urban boundary expansions. We saw that with the Greenbelt grab. And once again, When it came to that private university, which by the way I will point out is a private university that's Islamophobic, homophobic, transphobic, but most importantly, Premier and his ministers were making all kinds of promises behind closed doors to Mr. McVitie, and we now have phone records to that effect. This is another reason why. I was asking today, we need to see the Premier's phone records. We know the Integrity Commissioner said that the Premier was actually having conversations with Sergio Mancho. We need to understand exactly what took place, to understand where and how this government is giving preferential treatment to their insider friends. And I don't think it ends here. I think we have to shine a light in every one of this, every inch of this government's dealings.
On that question of declaring intimate partner violence an epidemic now, in doing so, what would that
I think it's, well, first of all, it would speak to the significance of taking the correct action we need to take. And it is an epidemic, right? We see it every year, and these tragedies continue to unfold. And by the way, I should have started by saying, my deepest condolences to the families of all of those lost, and of course the community of Sault Ste. Marie, which I know is really devastated right now. But we can save lives. We can save these lives. We do need to approach it with the seriousness that it deserves, and that means declaring it an epidemic. It means taking those the recommendations seriously and acting on every single one of them. And I don't know how we as a province in good conscience why we wouldn't do that.
So, declaring it an epidemic, what extra protection would that have?
Well, I think it would treat it like the issue it is, which is it is a significant issue. It is a public health issue, actually, and it would hopefully, and this is a really important part of it. We need significant resources to be put into this. I talk to agencies and folks on the front line all the time who are struggling to deal with the spike and also in intimate partner violence that we saw particularly during the pandemic and since then, and they're struggling to pay their staff. They haven't seen, a rise in funding in years, and they need stable, predictable, and adequate funding to be able to do the really important work that has to happen in our communities to address this epidemic. I think what Doug Ford should be doing is actually what he has control over. He doesn't have control over that. What he has control over is, escalating, skyrocketing rents. We could be addressing the skyrocketing rents in this province with rent control. We could be addressing other cost of living issues in this province, and this government continues to refuse to do that. He could stop fighting nurses and other healthcare workers and public sector workers in court to keep their wages suppressed. That would go a long way, but instead, he tries to always turns to some other jurisdiction. He always has somebody else to blame for the problems that, frankly, he could address right here in Ontario if he had the will to do so.
He's not the only premier who thinks that he should be governor of the Bank of Canada. The NDP's premier in British Columbia also.
Well, I think it's one thing to say. That we're all concerned about those interest rate increases. But it's another thing to actually roll up your sleeves and do something about it. And in the province of BC, they are actually addressing a lot of the skyrocketing rents and housing issues in a really direct way. We should be doing some of that here in the province of Ontario. So, I have a hard time taking that from the Premier when he is not addressing the issues that he could address right here in our province.
What do you make of what we heard from the finance minister this morning regarding the Canada Pension Plan, responding to Alberta?
Well, I would say, Alberta pulling out of CPP is a huge issue, right? We're all going to pay for that down the road. So it's greatly concerning for the province of Ontario, but also for all of Canada. But you know what, Mr. Bethenfalvy, he could call the conservative Premier, a member of his own party, call her up right now and say, could you back away from this? I don't think it should all be just offloaded. I think that Mr. Bethenfalvy could do something directly to call up his friends in Alberta. And he should. Yeah.
Getting interference.
Perfect. Mark, on another note, on Monday, the Minister of Housing sent a letter to them, telling them how they can access that $1.2 billion Building Faster fund. At the bottom of the letter, he indicates how they're going to measure their success, and they indicate that they're going to measure their success through three things. One is housing starts. Two is the basement units or whatever that have been created. And And the third one is long-term care,
Yeah.
which I'm sure you've heard about. Are you good with
I'm gonna
that?
swap out that mic's
Oh, sorry, the mic's.
Here, we're gonna do
Okay.
this. Just give me 1 sec here.
We're stuck around.
It's okay.
Sorry about that.
No problem.
Just hold on to this.
I had the unique pleasure of watching Hamilton City Council this morning.
Something going on?
Unique.
No, well,